Good morning and welcome. We're back in 2016 with Head to Head, and I'm Mimma Viglezio, and I'm here with the one and only Colin McDowell.
So I've been introduced. I'm the one and only Colin McDowell. So
Exactly.
Let's go for it.
I think it's better for me to say who you are than making you
very graciously.
introduce yourself like a
Yes.
young student.
Oh, I
You
wish
know,
I
we
were a
know
young
who you
student.
are, and so I'd rather, you know.
You're very kind. This
Anyway.
can't last.
So we're going to talk men's fashion because, as you all know, this is the season of men's. Paris starts today, Milan ended this morning or last night, and London was before. And particularly, we would like to discuss a little bit Prada, the Prada men's show that happened last week. Last week? At the beginning of the week. I don't even know what day we are anymore. Sunday, I think. Anyway, so Prada. I was in Milan. Prada was very much the talk in town because it was a very particular show. On one side, Miuccia went back to, as they say, wearable. Commercial is never the right word with Miuccia, but things that are a little bit easier. But on the other hand, she was very vocal backstage about political things. We all know that Miuccia Prada is very grounded on what's happening in the world, and so even if she designs very expensive fashion for the 1% people, she likes to say, I know where we live, I know what's going on. And she used very strong words like pessimism, assassination, starvation, the refugees crisis, and she built this set which is like an Italian piazza, and the audience was literally looking down or into the piazza, like, you know, judges of something. So, and then there were mention of the Spanish Inquisition to.
Yeah, can I just stop you there? I didn't think it was a piazza. I thought it was more like a prison, and I thought that's why they all had jailers' keys.
They're the sailors, yes. But yeah, well, she described it like a piazza, but I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yes, it's well, there's a sort of very closed and clinical look about this actual set.
Some people were on top, so they were looking down from those
But you do if you go to
balconies.
prison. If you ever visit someone in prison,
That's
you know,
very interesting.
To me, it's like a prison, and I think that there's a reason for these keys, which are exactly what prison warders have. You know, that would be my first observation. I think that Miuccia is a very intelligent person, probably the most intelligent of all the designers.
Absolutely.
Maybe there are others like Lagerfeld, who once upon a time seemed to be intelligent. Now he's in his dotage, in my opinion. You know, he's doing and saying incredibly stupid things. But
and here we are in trouble.
What?
And here we are in trouble. I'm
Oh
kidding.
well,
we can say what we want.
Can't be taken back now.
Exactly.
Whereas she is a very intelligent woman, very intelligent, and she is very politically aware. She's probably the only fashion designer who, when she was young, was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party.
Absolutely.
Now, I think that what she said behind the scenes afterwards was really rather offensive to people who are deeply concerned about what is happening in the world, when what she's just shown us, her contribution to the problem, is to show boys in, and girls as well, boys in meaningless clothes. These clothes are not going anywhere. How many men do you know? How many young men do you know who's going to wear a sailor's hat? A sailor hat?
No, probably not a sailor hat.
Can I just say also,
Yes.
how many guys who are going to dress up, pay a fortune, want one collar out and one collar in? I'll tell you what I think is the trouble. I've thought a lot about this. I think the trouble with fashion now is people who, not only the people who make it, people who write about it, we're all hysterically out of touch with the realities of the world. And for her to stand up and pretend that she is caring about the realities of the world is slightly ludicrous. Her prices alone debar her from making any political statement, particularly about poverty.
Yeah, I hear you, and I can only agree on some of it. I think that if your job is to be a designer and you work in the luxury industry, then of course you're going to make clothes that are expensive and they cater to the 1% of the world. But then Miuccia can still have an eye on the world and and want to be addressing that the world is in troubled times. But I'd like to mention our very own Luz Stoppard, who probably wrote the most clever review on Prada, because she picked what every critic said and, you know, the political stance and everything. And she said, well, actually, Prada is going through troubled times. You know, Prada is sailing troubled water in the ocean of those marines because, you know, their stock price is falling, their revenues are negative growth, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think sometimes designers, they get inspiration, but then it's what they have inside, you know, their worries, their happiness, or whatever, you know, that you can see in some hints in their shows, which is more styling, because if you look at this show, there is so much that can be worn and bought. You know, well, forget the styling and forget the
I'm glad you've mentioned styling. I think that everything now is overstyled. Mm-hmm. We've got a little army, well, actually a large army, which sort of invented itself quite a couple of decades ago, I suppose. The stylist. Christian Dior didn't have a stylist. Mm-hmm. Balenciaga didn't have a stylist. He sent the clothes out the way he and his atelier wanted them to be. Stylists, of course, it's in their interest to be bizarre, ridiculous, and memorable, except who remembers them? There's so much.
Instagrammable.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, what is wrong with fashion is the people who are running and providing fashion. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand.
They have
but let me tell you,
trivialized fashion almost to a ludicrous extent.
But fashion is a spectacle as well. A fashion show is a spectacle.
No one ever said it was going to be.
Well,
it wasn't a spectacle. Go back to Chanel in the 30s.
Yeah, but now
she was selling clothes.
Yeah, but today you don't only sell clothes, you sell an image because you're selling a brand. And so, you know, a pair of blue trousers on the catwalk of Zegna, they will look in one way. On the catwalk of Canali or Brioni, in another. On the catwalk of Prada, they become more interesting because there is a whole spectacle around.
Let me say this.
But they're still black trousers.
Let me say this. I think that people don't buy brands. They buy labels. People do not buy high fashion because most of it is absolutely unwearable outside certain enclaves around the world where there are certain rules that are accepted. Half the clothes we see, if they were popped into, I don't know, some Tallahassee or Adelaide or somewhere like that, or even Exeter here in England, someone would call an ambulance because they'd assume that they had escaped from some sort of asylum. This is the reality. Then they say, well, we're not making much money. I mean, they can give a huge amount, and the Italians are very good at this. They will not, psychologically, they will not pay taxes. So every now and again, the tax authorities get onto them and they say, all right, paying taxes is so bourgeois, it's so stupid. We'll give you 20 million to restore something for the good of Italy. I mean, I've thought a lot about this winter because all over Christmas we were marooned in the house because it rained all the time. And I was the only fashion person involved. And it was really interesting listening to the hostility towards fashion and fashion people as being utterly self-indulgent from people who could afford it, people who were au fait with what was going on in the world, people who were, in most cases, holding down very good jobs. And this endlessly, because I, of course, tried to defend fashion until I thought it all through and thought, well, they're damn well right. They kept using the word offensive. And it is offensive when you walk past a high-named shop in the city, say, we won't mention it, and there is someone sitting there, dirty, unkempt, and his cheeks like this, who's clearly not eaten or been washed for a long time. And we just walk past. Some of us give them our small change. No one says, you know what, this shop could be closed and it could be made into a hostel for old people or young people or whatever people, you know? I'm just sick of the idea that people who send this sort of thing out are responsible people. They are not. They are encouraging us to live in a fantasy world, which some of us, thank God, are able to afford, but even more, thank God, the majority ignore. And I'm very happy about that.
Well, I'm a bit speechless because it's more of a political discussion than a fashion discussion.
She brought politics in by talking to you all in ludicrous terms about the poverty and the terrible things that are happening in the world. She can't, they think, I really do think the top designers, they're like Roman emperors. They believe they're beyond all criticism.
I would like to talk about...
Why are you stopping me from talking about politics?
I'm not.
When you started by mentioning what she had said. And you seemed to say that it was rather pleasing that she was being political and being aware of the world.
No, I was saying the opposite. I was saying
Let's
that
look at the clothes.
I was saying, no, I need to say this now,
Okay,
Colin.
do.
I was saying exactly the opposite. I was saying that I thought it was ludicrous that all the critics, they were picking this up as a reason why the shirts were deconstructed, and our own Lou Stoppard was the only one who pointed it out cleverly that actually it had nothing to do with politics.
I don't know.
I was saying exactly the opposite.
Lou is clever, and I'm sure she said something valid. I can't comment because something taken out of the context of a whole piece, it's dangerous. But look at this. What is this about? It's about banal shapes made memorable, we hope, she hopes, by foolish additions.
Well, I think it was one of the strongest shows. I think the clothes are very clever. They're very Prada and very wearable and sellable. I'm not going into prices and the usefulness of the fashion industry in the world, but I think this was one of the strongest shows. Then,
what do you think about the guy on this end here?
I don't care. This is fashion. It's a show. It's not.
Well, no, it's not. This is a selling.
It's not a showroom.
This is a selling tool. That's what the fashion show was all about.
It's not anymore.
Selling
in 2016, it's not. The selling tool is the showroom where clothes hang.
Well, you know, that's not the case. I know that people like Prada and Burberry and one or two others have huge numbers of shops, and how many people go in them? They're always empty. People look at this online or wherever. The shop is not the show where people buy. This is where people buy if they want to buy at all. I mean, there are some quite nice things here.
I think there are 3 extremely beautiful coats.
Yes.
And a very beautiful bag. Then, of course, if I were buying those stockings, I would probably wear a skirt on top, but that's a fashion show.
All right, we live in the centre of London.
Yeah.
A very fashionable city now. How many, could we go back just a second? How many of those clothes will we actually see?
On the back of people?
On the back of real people.
I think that women's coat a lot, and probably more if people could afford it more. And
no, they won't buy that one. That's very easily ripped off in a cheap imitation.
Yeah, but still...
Very easily.
But it means something if someone rips it off, because it means it's, desirable.
I'm not sure it will be ripped off, of course. One doesn't know yet. It's too early to tell. But
that bag is fantastic, and everybody will probably do cross bags now with a shorter belt than longer, like 2 years ago, because Miuccia put it on the catwalk like this. I mean, she always sets trends, and she always changes the way we look at styling and fashion. I think this was a very strong show. Probably, for me, the best shows in Milan this year were probably this one, Pilati Frozegna, which was exquisite and so chic and so beautiful, and Bottega Veneta.
I'm really, really pleased about Stefano Pilati, because I think he's a very good designer, and he has been treated by the fashion world very badly, in my opinion. Never given time to really start telling us what he can do. Then someone comes along and bigfoots him and says, right out, it's mine. You can't do it anymore.
I agree. I think he's a better men's designer, though.
Oh, I do also. He's marvelous.
Because when it was, I was working in the group when he was at Saint Laurent, so I was wearing a lot of his things, and they were a little bit castigating a woman. I still have a lot of his things, and I love them because chic was always the word for him. It's true that women were a little bit hidden in it. It was very, you know, discreet, and there wasn't much sexiness going on. I think he makes a man look so chic and sexy, like he never did with women.
Because he's not trying too
this is
much. Look at this,
fantastic.
he's not trying too much. The clothes are actually allowed
And as he said,
to speak.
the fabric speaks to me, and
Yes.
all of these are spectacular new technological fabrics. There is something about whatever you can't see here, but if you go and touch them, and it explains them to you. So there is a lot of hidden research, things that you don't see, but you can feel when you wear them. And he even put the number of, to go back to what you were saying, the number on every model, like the couture shows. So they were a number. I want number 18, the whole look.
Yeah.
So he really went back to the couture's time and delivered a spectacular
But
show.
can you not see the difference between this and what we've just seen at Prada? These clothes one can see walking down any major city street in the world, just as they are. They don't have to have things taken off. They do not have to have sailor hats taken off. They are clothes for real people right now.
But I don't think
That
Prada
is
is
what-
that far from reality. I think, I mean, if we were talking about Marcelo Burlan, that's a different thing. But I mean, we're talking about Prada. I think Prada is wearable.
I think Prada is
If
like
I were
Vuitton.
a 30 years old boy, I probably would buy that suit in the middle.
You don't have to be a 30-year-old boy, you would look terrific in it.
Me
'Cause
as a
you've got
woman,
figure,
yeah,
yes, you
maybe
look
I will
terrific.
go and try it.
That
But-
little thing would look great on a
But
woman.
I don't think Prada deserves this, because I think Prada, if you go into a Prada store, everything is desirable and wearable.
Well, I think that Prada doesn't need to worry about
Then
what we
Miuccia
say.
plays with us in her shows. She
but I mean,
provokes.
she's
She,
a
you know.
businesswoman. That's not what it's about. If she wants to do that, you know, go to the Comédie Française or somewhere.
Yeah, but they're still doing pretty well. I mean, they're still
What?
selling a lot of
Well,
clothes.
Who would ever know with the Italian Cup? You know what?
I know they're a public company, so they have to.
All right.
They have to announce
Okay.
results.
Okay. What I want to talk about, I was
Yes.
thinking about this on my way here now this morning.
Yes.
Are we seeing the end of single-sex shows?
yeah, that's a good one.
Burberry, for example, showed a lot of women's clothes in their so-called menswear. Now, I think this would be a very good idea. I mean, you know, people say, oh, we're so, fashion people say, oh, we're so worried about global warming, it's terrible. Half the fashion world has to crisscross the major
Seasons.
world all the time
Yeah.
for seasons, you know?
Well, that's a very good
This is
one.
Burberry.
Yeah, that's a very good one, and I'm very interested in discussing this, because it's not only an economical thing that more and more designers put the pre-season women on the men's show, you know, for efficiency, financial, logistic, whatever. But more and more, there is a cross-dressing as well, like, again, Lou was explaining in the FT weekend. It's not even dressing a man with women's clothes or a woman, you know, or making them look alike. It's really women wanting to wear, as you said about that Prada suit, wanting to wear their boyfriend's clothes because they're so desirable.
Yeah.
So why not? Why not mixing? Why not mixing season? Why not mixing genders? This is where the world is going, and
Yeah, oh
fashion
yeah.
will have to adapt to that.
I have no problem with this.
So that's a very good point you
whatsoever.
brought up, because it's happening. It's happening under our eyes, in front of our eyes.
What I can't bear is hypocrisy. And the fashion world is full of it. You know, we talk about terrible things, you know, is there going to be air for people to breathe in 1,000 years' time or whatever? What's happening? Then people like, the worst offenders are Dior and Chanel. They think,
Why?
where haven't we shown a show? Oh, let's go to South America. Let's go to somewhere in Asia. Bring everyone over, the top journalists over. Doesn't matter about the cost, doesn't matter about the cost to the planet. Bring them all over.
Because they can.
And won't it be great? Because we can. And we're a bit bored with doing things in Paris.
Like
or
everybody
wherever it
else,
happens to be, you know, and to me it's shocking. Also, it is so demeaning because they nearly always go to places where these sort of clothes, not even a smidgen of the population will be able to afford them. So it's an insult. I remember years ago, I went to India, 30 years ago it must have been, with Elle magazine. They were doing a fashion shoot there, and I was in fact writing about India. So we arrived, and the models were coming from New York, and the people who we were dealing with had seen the pictures of the models, of course, coming down there, and they looked fabulous. And they kept saying, the princesses come soon. The princesses are coming. These models appeared in ripped, tattered jeans, the sort of things that the Indians wear because that's all they can afford. They can't afford to change them. And artfully scruffy looks. It was heartbreaking, the reaction of the Indians. These are models and beautiful women from the West. They're as poor as we are. You know, what's it all about? And I thought, I said to the editor of Elle, I said, I'm really unhappy about this. It is so tactless.
But was it done because it was the trend of the moment, or it was because they were trying to imitate?
The trend in India was to find a tin can with no holes in, so you could actually wash your feet, and if you could find some water. You know, I think the West is so patronising to the poor.
Yeah. So
anyhow, we liked Burberry very much.
I did. I was even on a panel on this show. So, yes, for me, it wasn't the strongest Burberry men's show, but it's true that Christopher put back things that are very Burberry. Beautiful outerwear, amazing duffel coats, and
lovely duffel coat,
and very
lovely
smart
to see.
for the time.
Lovely to see Macs again. You know, Macintoshes again.
Yes.
Which pleased me.
Yes.
I haven't had one for years and years and years.
Did you attend the Burberry show? Were you there?
Yes, I was. Yes.
So how was it? The atmosphere, the music.
They changed the whole way it was shown.
Yes, there were people in the middle, like an island.
It was a serpentine line.
Okay.
Which has been used in other places. But what was nice was so many people said, you know, I've never been able to see them close up because I've never been front row before. There were hundreds of people in the front row because it went
long,
all the way around,
yes.
you know, and that was great. He had the most marvellous singer who he'd had last season. I don't know who he is.
I don't remember actually. I know who he is, but I don't remember.
He was splendid. He, in a fashion show,
to have
he
live
came
music
out with no shoes and socks.
Oh,
which was lovely.
Was it there barefoot?
Barefoot, yes.
Okay.
It was marvellous. It was very powerful as a presentation, but it couldn't possibly have offended anybody.
No,
Whereas when we get to Paris and Milan, they just don't seem to have the common sense or the taste or whatever it is to think a bit. And this is the problem of the stylists. Bright young things saying, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we gave them all Chinese faces or whatever?
Yeah, but yet
and someone said, oh, that's a good idea.
But yet Milan is probably the least offensive because people say Milan is gloom, Milan is too classic, Milan is, you know,
it's rubbish. Of course it's not too classic. It hasn't been too classic for 15 or 20 years.
But it's certainly more men's classic fashion than London.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking fashion altogether. I wouldn't say that people like Dolce & Gabbana or Cavalli are particularly classic. No. I have to say that's stretching classic quite.
Yeah, but then you have again the Canalis, the Zegnas, the Brionis,
Yeah, I think they shouldn't show. It's a bit like people in Savile Row and Dunhill and all. The clothes are lovely. The guys who go there know what they're all about. And
yeah, but that's a bit contradicting to what you said. So I don't understand, or explain me. So if you style too much, it's.
Can I just say this?
I just want to understand.
We are entertainers. We're not meant to be logical.
Okay.
Or even consistent.
That's a very good point. I love that.
They want because this is a trivial
That's
world
a
we're
very
talking
good
about.
point.
You know, we want them. They don't want to say, "Oh, he's just contradicting himself." They say,
"Sorry, but I'm a little bit square."
I want them to be saying, "What a load of rubbish," you know.
You know, that's the difference between you and me. That's probably why we still get along.
We gel because
I'm the
in many ways we're the same, but in many ways different.
But so
anyhow, back to
I mean, if you see that Zegna couture show by Stefano Pilati, you really think it's useless to show? I think it's such a pleasure for my eyes. And yet, yes, it's a man walking down with a beautiful suit.
I think fill the shops with these clothes, and you'll fill the shops with customers.
You know that they don't sell this. Not it doesn't
That
sell.
is-
They don't even produce
That
it.
is what is
which-
so ridiculous.
It's
This
like
is what is
weird.
so ridiculous. All of this money,
Yeah.
all the
They
resources
don't. Yeah.
spent,
They don't.
even
Make
from
it,
when
they
they,
don't put it
even
in
from when
stores.
they wash the wool, all wasted because they don't go into production.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's probably they think
it's
probably
like,
it's too
I
expensive.
mean, if you think of another creative world, it's like spending 4 months, 5 months rehearsing and dressing a play and then saying, oh, we're not
tear it
going to do
down.
it. We're not going to do the play. You know, the
We tear it
important
down.
part, you know, and oh, well, what's going to happen to the play? Oh, well, nothing.
It
you
is
know?
weird. I don't know if it's a legend or if it's true, but everybody says this doesn't. Nothing of this touches the floor of a store or the hangers of a store.
I don't
and
know.
it's the best of Zegna. Why bother hiring someone like Stefano Pilati and probably paying him a lot of money
Yeah.
to deliver this? I know about image, it's my job, but why? It's not crazy, it's not unsellable, it's just more expensive. But it's Zegna. I mean, they certainly have clients that can afford this, don't they?
Oh, yes, yes.
So I don't know. I don't know
But they're
why.
clients who very much fit, who very much fit the old saying about men's clothes. A married man, his wife will say, the collar's going on that shirt. I'll get you another, because married men always expect their wives to buy outside fashion. And he'll say, well, and she comes back with a lovely white one or whatever. He says, no, I always wear a blue one to work. In other words, when one thing's gone, they want exactly the same.
The same, yeah. That's quite true.
Exactly the same. So, what's all this about? See, the trouble is, the little lads and lasses who are fashion crazed, and it's great for them, it's great.
Yes.
They can't afford any of this.
No, but even the least fashionable, I always discuss with my non-fashion professional friends that even the least fashionable or trend, savvy of them is influence. Because if you go back to, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, the shape has changed. So even if people always buy the same thing, it's narrower or flairer
yes.
or bigger or, you know what I mean? So there is
the shapes
influence
change,
everywhere.
Mimma, but that has something to do with our bodies, which have changed enormously. The young
Nothing
man,
to do with designers?
No, let me just say what I'm going to say. The young man who was being dressed in the 30s, say, had a very different figure to the young man today. The fashionable young man almost always has a body that he thinks about and cares about, just as women have for a very long time.
Yeah, it's true.
This is a comparatively recent development. So I think that if Zegna does a beautiful collection like this, take out the overcoat, which no man in England at least would dare to wear if he went into a pub or even a posh pub. People would think, oh, who's he? Oh, I don't like the look of that, because in England we are still, outside cities, we are terrified of homosexuals, and they would immediately assume, oh, he's a homosexual. No man I know would wear something like that,
Yeah, but even I think
Look
an
at that
Italian
sweater.
lawyer would not
There's
wear
nothing
those
new about
trousers.
that sweater, but it just looks great.
Yes.
It looks great.
But do you think an Italian banker would wear those trousers to the office, or a lawyer? They won't. No. But yet, I think we need this because this is fashion. This is forward. This will happen.
Are you telling me you haven't? Have you had a long sleep in the last 5 years? Have you not noticed that people are wearing these trousers already?
Not in the milieu we were discussing. I don't see many lawyers wearing those.
Oh, I don't know. You go up
coming down to see the clients in that outfit.
No, well,
a pity. I would love my lawyer to.
This is the whole
wear
problem.
that.
In a nutshell, this is the problem. They are selling clothes which are so expensive, only a certain sort of person can buy them, and they don't want that look. They should give these clothes to kids and say, wear it, wear it. We won't spend a fortune on a photographer.
Create the trend.
Dare I say that in front of Nick? We won't spend a fortune on a photographer doing a campaign. We'll just get them out there, get them on a bus, get them on the underground or whatever. get them into the clubs. That's what I would do.
To make them happen.
I would not have shows.
Is that to make them happen?
Yeah, to let real people know what it's all about. How many people do you know who are not fashion people who look at Fantastic Man, for example? Any?
I'm an editor, so I can't say that, but not many.
No? Multiply Fantastic Man by quite a lot of other pretentious titles, and you begin to think, well, this is an exercise in futility. The next stage is total madness, because what we're doing is we're destroying rationality in fashion.
So what are we going to do? This is the
I have no idea. I'm not
This
a
is the
designer.
industry that feeds
I'm
us.
a commentator. I'm not a designer.
Okay.
It's got to come from them. They got us into this mess. They've got to get us out.
Gotta get that out. So, anything you loved in so far in the season, from London to Milan? Anything
No
you
one
think
collection.
was?
No one collection. There were lots of things I liked, and we've seen quite a lot of them today. I mean, this collection was very strong. I liked the Burberry collection very much. I actually was quite interested in Craig Green. Now, can we get some Craig Green pictures?
So I'm glad you're saying this, because explain me why after
Well,
what we've
I'm
been
wondering
discussing.
if he's already slowing down.
Oh, really?
The excitement graph with Craig, in my opinion, has gone down and down. And Craig, I'm sorry to say, because I think you're a very, very talented person, but I'm not sure what's happening to you. Can we find him?
Craig Green is very...
Craig Green, we've got him.
Yeah, he's very much loved by women. Women wear Craig Green.
Oh, I expect.
You know that. So...
How many women?
So I don't know many
Non-fashion women?
friend of mine
Now,
who
what
wear
I thought
that,
about
but
Craig
so
was...
why do you... I think he's an incredible
Well,
designer.
if you look at
Why
the one
do you
on the left, I thought, so what we're doing this season with Craig is it's lunatic asylums, where people have got to be restrained for their own good. And then we went on, and I thought, oh no, it's not. It's a reflection on what's going on in the Middle East. What were these things they were dragging, do you think?
That's a good question.
I'm sure everyone else in the audience knew, but I had no idea at all. First of all, I thought it was a sleeping bag, and I thought it was a very small and narrow sleeping bag. And I thought, well, are they bomb disposal people? I mean, is it something to do with putting it away?
I like what you said about the Middle East, because the how do you call it, the hood, there's something...
It's shades of the desert. There's a reason for it, and the stripes and everything. I mean, there's something in this collection to think about. I think it was incredibly monosyllabic. It was just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, in different fabrics
in
and
essence,
colours. Yeah.
in essence.
But
it was interesting. But again,
you know,
if you walked into a bar wearing that middle thing, almost certainly
they
wouldn't serve you.
No, but probably you wouldn't wear the hood like that.
All right, even if you took
so
the
if
hood
you
off.
wear it like this, they would serve you. In London, yeah. I
But
mean, in
these
Oxford,
have, I'm saying he's going down because I think he's got to give us an injection of real ideas. But these are much more sophisticated, much more au fait with what life's about, much more aware of what young men want than Mucha.
Really?
And I have a great admiration for Mucha, but I think stylists have got her by the throat. I can understand it because stop there for a minute. I can understand it because I don't wish to be ungallant, but she's not young anymore.
No, she's not young.
In a young world. So she feels she needs to listen to younger people. I don't think that. I think that it's like Michelangelo saying, well, I don't know how to do modern sculpture. Of course she knows how to do modern sculpture, or its equivalent, which is modern clothes. But because of her age, there is a sensitivity toward it. So let's get these bright young things from London, New York, Paris, or wherever it happens to be, to tell us what to do. Give us ideas. Now,
I think, before you say what you think about it, I disagree with you, Colin, because I think that Miuccia, even if she's past 60, she probably is the one who is the closest to what's really going on. She's still very relevant. She's still the master of them all. She's still the one who everybody wants to be. So I'm very surprised that you think that, because I think more than her peers in age or generation, she is in tune with relevance and society, and I mean, I love Craig Green, and I think he's an extraordinary designer. People don't understand. My non-fashion friend, they understand Prada, they don't understand this though.
Well,
and I just spend hours trying to explain why it's so important.
Have you heard of Halifax? Not Nova Scotia, Yorkshire.
No.
Halifax is a town that was once a huge supplier of wool.
Yes.
It's now very much a downtrodden city with not much going for it. I was talking about this yesterday to Christopher Bailey, who was born there and brought up there. I'd like to take some of Miuccia Prada's clothes and just walk them down, as they come down the runway, and walk them down the street in Halifax. It would be a very interesting.
What about Craig Green's clothes?
Craig, I think they could understand much more.
Really?
Although, if we go back once more,
do you think it would be?
This frightened me. Do you get this?
Well,
I don't get this at all. I thought, why is he moving to
leather?
this? No, it's not that. It's this huge sort of chain stitch that he's done on what I didn't know whether they were skirts or what they were, but why did he feel he needed? I'm interested in the madness of design, and I can't think why he felt he needed to do this.
I think we have to see the whole collection. It's very difficult.
Well, I
collection
saw it.
like this. No, I know, but for the sake of our audience, to dissect it like this, there is a fil rouge. Talk about fil, by the way. There is, it's.
Or are we the victims? We, the commentators, are we the victims of a creeping fear that they don't know what to do, because it now is considered that you have to have a certain number of garments coming down the runway. If you've only got 4 garments that you're really proud of and which can really lead to something, why show the other 25, which can do nothing but weaken the impact? Shows are too big, they're too long, and usually they're too diverse.
They're too long, and not always is easy
There's no
to.
discipline.
And that was my only problem with the Prada show, that it started with the marine theme and then it went into something completely different. We didn't even discuss the prints by this French artist Christophe Chemin.
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
What I would say was,
so that's my problem. But I think Craig Green, he's pretty consistent, not only within the collection, but from collection. I can see the evolution. I can see his thinking. I can see where he's going with his shapes.
yes, but then look at this
more
middle
than many,
one.
many other.
This
I
is an
can
aberration
recognize
compared to this is an aberration compared to the rest.
I think
I
it's
mean,
an evolution.
are those buttons meant to be fastened? In which case, what sort of shape does it come back to? Does it come back to a narrow shape? In which case, why do this where it floats around? Can you see anybody wearing that? No. The one next to it, yes. He's done the middle one because all of the paparazzi at the end will take that picture. They don't care about that.
Show.
A fashion show, but no fashion show should be allowed to diminish itself by becoming a freak show. It's a fashion show, not a freak show. And that, I think, is what they've forgotten.
And I think on these words, we're going to have to wrap up. So,
Okay.
goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh, I hope this isn't goodbye. Au revoir.
No, au revoir. Au revoir.